Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we're looking at a case today that literally defies logic. And honestly, it left investigators completely baffled. We're going back to 2014 to dig into one of America's most famous and, let's be real, most chilling unsolved mysteries. Imagine this. You step out for a fun night with friends. You're surrounded by people, totally plugged into the modern world, and then you just drop off the grid entirely. Like poof, gone. That's exactly what happened here. So we're going to break down the timeline, the police investigation, and some incredibly glaring inconsistencies that still haunt people today.
After that night, she was never seen again. Just let the absolute finality of that sink in for a second. I mean, we live in an era where we're constantly tracked, right? By our phones, our social media, random cameras on the street. So completely vanishing without a trace, it feels almost impossible. And yet, this sudden, total disappearance is exactly what went down.
All right, part one, the vanished student, a party that ended in silence.
So let's get right into the basic facts of who was involved and what actually unfolded that night. 19. That's the age of the American college student at the center of this whole tragedy. We're talking about a young woman literally in the prime of her life. She had her entire future stretched out right in front of her. She just went out to a party with some friends. You know, it was supposed to be your totally ordinary, typical college evening. And that's what makes the fact that it ended in complete silence just so devastating.
To really wrap our heads around the scope of this, we've got to look at the timeline. And honestly, the facts are tragically brief here. First up, the evening of the party, she's hanging out with her friends. Second, the night ends, standard stuff. But third, the disappearance happens immediately after. And finally, months later, an entirely empty-handed search. There's no wildly complex sequence of events here, guys. It's just an abrupt drop-off. 1 minute she's socializing, having a good time, and the next, she's simply gone.
Moving on to Section 2, a fruitless investigation, searching for a ghost.
Now, obviously, when a 19-year-old vanishes, law enforcement doesn't just sit around. The police jumped in and took all the massive, exhaustive steps you'd expect. Step 1, they meticulously searched the entire area. Step 2, they pulled and checked all the CCTV footage, trying to find any digital footprint or visual confirmation of where she went. And Step 3, they brought her friends in for interrogation to trace her final known movements. I mean, they threw incredible resources at this. They covered the physical ground, the digital eyes of the city, and the human witnesses.
But here's the wild part. Despite checking all those boxes, combing the terrain, scanning the cameras, grilling the friends, months of intense investigation resulted in absolutely zero solid clues. Zero. The police literally came up empty-handed. It's just a stunning contrast. You've got this massive, top-tier mobilization of law enforcement, and on the flip side, a completely devastating lack of results. It was basically like they were searching for a ghost.
Which brings us to our next section, the mismatched statements, the crucial anomaly.
You know, every mystery has that one friction point, right? That one place where the neat little story totally falls apart. Well, here it is. Statements of some people from that night did not match. Up until this point, we've had a fairly clean, if tragic, narrative of a girl who just went missing. But this single finding introduces a seriously chilling layer to the whole story. It means the timeline is broken. It means the people who are with her, the very witnesses the police interviewed, were offering conflicting versions of reality.
Suddenly, investigators hit a massive roadblock. In one corner, you have friend A's account of the night. In the other corner, friend B's account. And guess what? They do not align. When the people closest to this vanished student on her final night can't even agree on the basic facts, that raises some immediate, glaring red flags. Was it just a trick of memory after a long night of partying, or was someone actively lying to cover up what really went down? This crazy discrepancy became the absolute biggest hurdle between the police and the truth.
So let's quickly summarize exactly what law enforcement was up against here. They found absolutely no physical evidence. They got zero breakthroughs from any CCTV. And the only thing they did have was conflicting stories from the friends who were literally right there. Seriously, how is a modern police force supposed to build a case when every single avenue they take leads straight to a dead end, or worse, a complete contradiction? And that leads us to our final section, accident or conspiracy, a national obsession. That intense frustration, that sheer lack of any real answers, is exactly what pushed this isolated missing persons case out of a local police precinct and completely into the national spotlight. Even today, years after that night in 2014, it remains one of America's most talked about unsolved mysteries. It's totally transcended a standard case file. Now, it's a national phenomenon.
People all across the country are still debating the details, picking apart the timeline, and trying to make sense of those mismatched statements. I mean, it's human nature, right? Our brains just hate an unresolved puzzle, especially when the stakes are this high.
So, the ongoing national discussion really boils down to two main theories. First, we have the theory of a tragic accident. Did this 19-year-old just wander off into the night and succumb to the elements, or have a terrible mishap in an area where she simply hasn't been found yet? Or, on the other hand, is there a hidden conspiracy, a dark secret? Do those mismatched statements from her friends point to foul play and some sort of coordinated cover-up? These two haunting possibilities basically stand perfectly balanced side by side. We aren't here to tell you which one is right, but rather to show you the exact divide that keeps this case locked in the public eye.
And that ultimately brings us to the final, haunting questions. What actually happened that night? Was it a heartbreaking, totally random accident, or is a very dark secret still being kept hidden by the people who were there? We've walked you through the timeline, the empty-handed investigation, and those glaring, conflicting statements. Now, it's your turn to weigh in on the facts. Drop down into the comments and let us know. What do you think really happened to the vanished student?